Hell is other people. And that's all I have to say to you. No, I'm just kidding. Hell is other people is a line from the play No Exit by Sartre. And it can really feel true sometimes, so. But here we are. We have to live and work and problem solve together. So how can all kinds of people, all ways of being, be catalysts for curiosity, connection, and creativity? That's the dimension of change that I want to play around with you today. So my background is in theater, and a collaborator of mine in that space often says to actors that if playing the role didn't change you, then you didn't really play the role. And this is because every character causes us to see and respond to the world differently. So, for example, once I played a nature conservationist, and I really didn't care about nature myself at the time. But I came out of rehearsal one day, and all of a sudden there were these huge, beautiful trees. It's like I had just grown there during rehearsal. No, they had been there, but I was like, trees, welcome to my awareness. It was like she completely transformed my relationship with nature. Whereas this other character I played, he was a king. His land was under siege. That's really stressful. And I came out of rehearsal one night, and it was dark and late in the middle of the city, and there was this guy there, and he's trying to steal my bike. So I was like, hey, that's my bike, because that's how the king spoke. Hey, that's my bike. And I went charging over there, and I don't really know what I was planning on doing, but anyway, he jumped back. He was really terrified. And it was not my bike. I apologized, and I don't usually going around yelling at people, nor do I aspire to. So, although acting a role does change you, I wouldn't necessarily recommend adopting all the ways that actors can be, or all the ways that actors are trained even, but I do think that acting is something to tell us about how we can work and live better together. So about 15 years ago, I started teaching acting in these 1 to 4 week long intensives, and the students come from all over the world. They're actors and non-actors. So for example, in the first group I ever taught, there was a US Army veteran and an anthropologist from Switzerland. So huge range of people. So a lot of these people had never encountered acting techniques before. And they said that while they were helpful for acting, they also noticed that they were helpful in relating to other people and parts of themselves. And so I was like, that's interesting. And then over the years, I just kept getting the same feedback again and again from all kinds of people, hundreds of people. So I was like, all right, let's look into this. So I started collaborating with people in business, education, and neuroscience, teaching and researching. I went back to school. And in working with all of these varied people, they've helped me identify 2 aspects of actor training that when used together, just bring more curiosity into the flow of life. They open up new ways of being and mitigate fear, so we can access empathy and creative agency more easily, and realize, as Walt Whitman said, that beyond our tweets and posts and feeds, we really are large, and we really do contain multitudes, all of us. So what are these 2 ways that we can use? One is an orientation towards presence. Actors learn, and we can all learn how to just be with the moment as it unfolds. We can cultivate awareness. The other is an orientation towards possibilities. Actors learn, and we can all learn how to just play around with different ways of thinking, feeling, and being in order to construct new perspectives. We can cultivate imagination. One roots us down into the moment. The other branches us out and allows us to see that moment in new ways. As a collaborator of mine in the business space, Jack McCarthy says, this allows us to see how we can shape ourselves and our environments while remaining authentic, which I love. So let's play around with these. Let's play around with presence first. So presence is just being in the moment as we are, as it is, with our eyes wide open. It's like whole self-mindfulness in real time, action mindfulness. And we can play around with this anywhere. So like we're watching Netflix, we're sending an email, we're at a meeting. So let's play around with it here. Here's one way. So if you'd like to, I'd just like to invite you with your eyes open, just to bring your awareness to your jaw And just notice what's going on with your jaw. Just become present to your jaw. There's no right or wrong way to do that. And then allow that awareness to spread to the whole of you, your whole body and self. And then, like a flashlight beam, allow it to expand to include the people around you. And then allow it to expand further to include the whole room, behind you, above you, to the sides of you, in front of you. So here you are with these people in this room. And then include your thoughts about being present. Is it relaxing for you? Is it stressful for you? Something else? For me, for most of my life, being present was like, can I do anything beside that, please? Because sometimes hell is our own anxious minds. But in facilitating this for people and grappling with it and playing with it myself, I've come to discover that it's pretty useful to be able to come into contact with reality once in a while. And that the more often I'm present, the more present I like to be. I mean, sometimes I'm still like, no, run away, or control all the things. But that's okay, because that's information. As father of organizational behavior, Ed Schein said, all experience is data. So we can become present to our own experience in order to get some data. Or we can become present to the fact that we don't want to be present, and that's data too. The more experiences we have, the more data we have. The more data we have, the better choices we can make. So we can also give ourselves experiences in order to get data. We can play around with other possible ways of being in order to, as a collaborator of mine, Sally Taylor, who works in the education space, says, in order to introduce ourselves to the plenitude of optional lenses that we have access to inside of us. I just love that. The optional lenses that we have inside of us. So how do we access these lenses? Well, one way is through observation. We can watch other people going through life and try it out ourselves. My 1-year-old daughter does this constantly. We can just be a little bit more subtle about it. So let's try it. You'll observe, for example, that I have wrinkles here. They are very deep. This is because I furrow my brow. So if you furrow your brow, or even just think about furrowing your brow, you'll notice that a wheelhouse of feelings arises. It's kind of in the realm of concerned, anxious, worried. You can let that go. So this is because our thoughts, our feelings, and our bodies all affect each other. We shift one, we shift them all. So this is how we can give ourselves experiences. So I furrow my brow when I'm disagreeing. And sometimes that is useful because sometimes a disagreement calls for worry. But apparently not always, because I was having coffee with a friend once, and I noticed when we were disagreeing about something that she raised her eyebrows. So if you raise your eyebrows, or even just thinking about raising your eyebrows, you'll notice you feel something different, kind of more like surprised. I was like, oh, surprised rather than worry in response to disagreement. This is an option. I think I will carry that with me into the future. So once again, you see I'm teaching what I need to learn. And we can do this with anyone. We can do this with a colleague we like, a colleague we don't like, a cashier at the grocery store, someone walking down the street. One woman that I worked with, she travels a lot for business. She says that she does this at the airport. She just internally models people to see what seems to be good and useful about how they're going through life. And when we're doing this, we're not seeing the whole of their souls or anything. We're just allowing other people to spark curiosity in us. When we allow other people to spark curiosity in us, doors of connection can open that otherwise would remain shut. And we can consider other ways of being that can allow us to support our own creativity. And importantly, considering doesn't mean condoning. Considering just means considering so we can gain new insights. And sometimes considering is out of the question. And that is okay. Like I was teaching this intensive and it was the first day and we were playing around with qualities. So qualities are another way that we can shift our experience, but just through our own inventiveness. And there's a whole group of practices that qualities are a part of. So if you want to try it, you can try to adopt a quality of openness, like open like the sky. And you'll notice that you feel a sense of expansion and receptivity. Let's just wave to each other from this quality of openness. Hi, everybody. You can also adopt a quality of closed like doors. And if you experience closed, you'll feel a little bit more distance and be skeptical. Let's just wave to each other from this closed place. Hello. Okay, we can let that go. So open isn't better than closed. They're just differently useful. And we can use qualities and practices like qualities to help us. So, for example, one woman that I worked with, she's an ethics professor, and she said, oh, I'm going to use the quality of closed, just a little bit of closed in my salary negotiations, because closed just helped her feel a little bit more like, this is my space, this is your space, let's see how it goes. We can also use qualities and practices like qualities to help us understand people differently. So this one woman who was a cancer researcher I worked with, there was this guy in her office who worked in the sales team, and she just found him like aggressively grating. And so she played around with the qualities that he seemed to have, which were large, loud, fast, and bright, this kind of like bursting energy. And in playing around with these, she noticed two things. One, that these qualities were likely what helped him do his job well and so helped pay for her salary. And two, that some of these qualities she liked. So the quality of fast, for example, helped her feel really focused, so she could keep that. So anyway, it was the first day of this intensive, and we were playing around with qualities, and we were playing around with the qualities of open and direct. So if you adopt those, you'll feel a kind of like clear channel. And this one woman was like, I don't really feel comfortable being open and direct. And I said, oh, that's so interesting. Okay, notice that. But if it doesn't feel like play, don't worry about it. And so over the next couple of days, we played around in a lot of different ways. And on the third day, I looked over, and this woman was standing there like, boom. She was like, open and direct, like drop the mic, open and direct. And I was like, wow, look how open and direct you're being, what happened? And she said, oh yeah, I guess I am. I hadn't even noticed. Because playing around with possibilities gives rise to more possibilities without us even trying. And one reason is because playfulness dispels fear. Playing around in this way also allows us to notice things we might not notice, so we can have choices we wouldn't have otherwise. So for example, I had this one student, he was a rapper from China, and he was actually one of the first students that made me realize this would be helpful. He came back from a break, and he was so excited. So I never give breaks because I just always get so wrapped up in what we're doing. And so he really had to go to the bathroom. So he like ran down to the bathroom with urgency. And there was this woman in there, and she was cleaning. And he said that he almost kicked her out, but instead he just became present to his own experience, which was anger. And then he noticed her, and he noticed that her shoulders were forward and her chin was down, and she had these qualities of tightness and darkness and tightness. And in noticing that, he noticed that he felt sad, and so instead of kicking her out, he asked her, are you okay? And this is another part of the imaginative aspect of actor training research. But in life, the people are real, so a conversation can be research. And so he asked her, are you okay? And she said, yes, in a way that was very professional, but to him clearly meant no. And so he thought, I'm going to have an altercation with a sad woman who's cleaning the men's room. And he just went and found another bathroom. And he was just so excited because he realized that just by noticing a few extra things, he had choices in how he responds to life. So lastly, we can use all of this in order to innovate well. His father of psychology, William James, said, genius, in truth, means little more than the faculty of perceiving in an unhabitual way. So we can give ourselves unhabitual ways to perceive any problem, issue, or topic in order to access our genius more fully around it. This loosens our grip. We become less concerned with being right, and we're able to generate divergent perspectives that can cross-pollinate in exciting and surprising ways. Or as mother of improvisation Viola Spolin puts it, we are expanding our capacity for experiencing. We are expanding our capacity for experiencing the present moment. And every time we do that, we reinforce for ourselves, I can be here with life as it is, as I am. And we are expanding our capacity for experiencing other ways of being and learning from them. And every time we do that, we reinforce for ourselves, I can be here with otherness. And the world doesn't collapse. It blooms. This gives us a kind of super mindfulness, presence and possibilities, awareness and imagination, how things are and how else they might be. We can spark our own curiosity by connecting with more ways of being in order to create solutions that work truly better, maybe for everyone. I call actors ambassadors of empathy. because they want to stand in other people's shoes. But my collaborators and my students have inspired me to believe that we can all be ambassadors of empathy. As Meryl Streep said, I'm curious about people. That's the essence of my acting. I'm interested in what it would be like to be you. So curiosity is a feeling, and a feeling can't always be sparked. But to wonder is a verb. At any moment, we can ask ourselves, am I willing to wonder? Am I willing to wonder about my own experience? Am I willing to wonder about someone else's experience? Am I willing to wonder about a whole other way of saying this and just get some data? And I think this is really exciting because I think that so many of the world's challenges are desperately calling for more curiosity, more connection, more creativity. And I think that the more that each of us can say yes, yes, I'm willing and able to be present to my own experience. Yes, yes, I am willing and able to include another person's experience. The more skillfully we can harness our collective genius to answer those calls. Thank you so much.